What's up, everyone? Welcome to the Noise Podcast. I am your host, as your boy, Chris Pugh, and I'm joined, as ever, by my very good friend and Mr. Cynical himself, Samuel Lewis. How are we, sir?
We're trying to avoid sunburn today, Chris.
Yeah, it wouldn't be an English podcast if we didn't start talking about the weather in the summer, would it? Either complaining that
Honestly,
it's too wet or complaining that it's too warm.
yeah, it might be too warm though. Like, let's be honest. I've heard salacious and terrifying rumors that tomorrow's going to be upwards of 27 degrees.
Yeah, miss me with
I
all that.
teach in a building of glass.
Yeah. Oh, mate, my classroom's heinous. How could they? How could they?
Honest,
Honestly.
honestly, no thanks.
Although, do you know the other day, like I was stood like in the shower and I was waiting for the water to warm up. And I was thinking, God, this is taking ages, man. Come on. And then I had this momentary thought where I was like, imagine me bumping into someone like from like the 1890s and me being like, yeah, but my shower takes ages to warm up. Like we know nothing of suffering.
No, no.
We know nothing about suffering.
I actually watched a clip just before we came on of a comedian being like, all of us live lives like whiny English princes from like 500 years ago.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, it's too cold in the castle to make it warmer. Oh, it's too warm now. And it's like, bring me the limbs of a chicken with a spicy sauce from South America and cheese from France.
Good.
And like that's like everyone's lives, and it's like a tenner, and
Yeah,
it's
honestly,
brought to us.
we know nothing about suffering. It's genuinely hilarious. Like tomorrow, I'm gonna be like, I can't believe how warm it is in my classroom where there's a roof over my head where I get paid a good wage. You know what I mean? Like it's just hilarious,
Yeah,
isn't it?
yeah, yeah. It's really sunny, so the car there's going to be hot in the car park at the end of the day until
How
I
could
open the
it?
windows and sit in it for 30
Your own
seconds.
personal transportation vehicle that gets you home, but it's
Yeah,
warm in there.
yeah.
Class.
Honestly, yeah.
As you can see from the title from today's episode, we're going to be talking about the brand new Malevolence album. Just before we do that, we should tell you how you can support us. You can do that by subscribing on YouTube. That's the best way to support us. You can also follow us on Instagram at Noise UK and on Twitter and Blue Sky at Noise UK. Before we get into the show, a quick word from our sponsors, and that is Heavy's headphones engineered specifically for heavy music. If you're a fan of an immersive audio experience, but specifically for heavy music, then look no further than Heavy's. The world's first headphones built specifically for heavy music, mimicking the live experience, built with 50 hours of battery life, active and passive noise cancellation, ultra comfortable wearability, wired/wireless functionality, and rapid charge. They come with a protective travel case, and if that wasn't enough, you can customize the outer shells with your favorite band with official and limited quantity designs. Heavy are giving all Noise listeners $40 off their first order, which translates to about £38. And with the code Noise in capital letters at checkout, that is NOIZZE in capitals for $40 off your first order. www.heavies.com. I am grabbing my pair of Heavies headphones in the next few weeks, actually, so I'll be able to speak about them personally because my Bose headphones. I've seen better days, so I'm excited about that. But yeah, $40 off your order at checkout, capital letters Noizze. Sam, are we ready to get moving with quite an exciting episode?
Yes, we are. Yes, we are.
Dick, let's go. So Malevolence, where only the truth is spoken, is out June 20th via Century Media Records. It's the band's fourth full-length album and is the follow-up to 2022's Malicious Intent. Um, just a quick word, really, Sam. Something I just said there, the band's fourth full-length album, but it feels like Malevolence have been around forever. And we've spoken about this before, but a Malevolence album is a bit of an event, isn't it? They don't happen
Yes.
a lot. I mean, I know that 2022, 2025 isn't like the greatest distance between records, but Malevolence, man, they do make you wait. They do make you wait.
Yeah, they do. If I remember rightly, there was a fairly large gap between Self-Supremacy and the follow-up to that
I'm
one
gonna
in
say
like,
5 years. I think
yeah,
there was
it was
they did the EP.
pandemic-esque, wasn't it?
They did the EP in between, but in terms of full length record, Self Supremacy was 2017, and then Malicious Intent 5 years later,
Yeah.
2022.
Yeah, so that's a pretty big gap for bands in the metal hemisphere, I think. And you're right, it has built up a real sense of excitement, and it does feel that the band have like grown sizably with every release
Yeah.
as well, where they feel like a real key part of not just the British metal scene, but heavy music in general.
Well, I think it speaks to the quality of Malevolence as a live band because usually the reason why bands go on the 2 year cycle of record album, release album, tour album, record album, release album, tour album is because they feel like, hey, we've got as much out of that record as we possibly could. Probably need to
Yeah.
go and write another one now. Malevolence don't really need to do that because, like, Malevolence, they seem to just have this kind of groundswell of kind of bangers to play live that, they could play the title track from Self Supremacy in 10 years' time and still
Yeah.
get quite a reaction. So
Yeah.
I think it's credence to Malevolence's performance as a live act that they can just tour the same album over and over, and people will just go over and over because it's a great time.
Completely agreed. Their live performances have become pseudo legendary with the sort
Yeah.
of responses that they get and the sort of bills that have been placed on as a result and that type of stuff. And it has formed the sort of legacy of Malevolence, similar to Slaughter to Prevail in a way, where the
Mm.
live performance has sort of accompanied the music and even taken on its a life of its own alongside the narrative that surrounds the band. And I do think that gives them a little bit of a unique longevity that does free them from the monotony of just recording over and over again.
I think that brings us quite nicely on to where Around the Truth is Spoken, Sam, where essentially Malev and we've done countless interviews with them over the years, myself and you, either together or separately.
Yeah.
And there was a time where we always kind of picked up on the idea. They never outrightly said it, but we could infer that they enjoyed being the underground scary band, the band that
Mm.
they were. But the band that basically they were like a word of mouth band, really. That you've got to see this band live. They'll play to a room of 150 people. It'll be unlike anything you've ever seen. But I think that where Under the Truth is spoken, it's become kind of undeniable now that they're one of like the big, great British metal bands of the last 10 years. How do you feel about that statement I've just made?
Yeah, I think that they've still maintained a sense of not not of the underdog necessarily, but there's still a rawness to their sound where they haven't really deviated from the sort of foundational tropes that made them such an exciting and unique band to begin with. They haven't
I would agree
really
with that. Yeah.
amended themselves stylistically. They've
Mm.
just grown in popularity naturally, in like less of a contrived way. I don't really feel at any point Malevolence have tried to become a popular band in any sense. I think they've just naturally grown popular in the same way that like bands like Knock Loose became popular
Yeah.
in a way that they haven't like brought out a hit single. And then like years before that, bands like Sepultura and Slayer became popular by just growing and growing and growing
Mm.
until they become like just a staple part of whatever scene that they inhabit.
I would say, Sam, that this this record does everything that I love about Malevolence and turns up the set piece moments to about 11.
You see, I don't actually agree with your statement there.
Interesting.
I think this is a really, really, really good album, and it does everything I would expect from a Malevolence record, but I don't think it takes the excitement level upwards in any way. I felt that listening to this, it was a really good record, but I didn't feel really the many moments that sort of transcended into great. It kind of felt more like a continuation of the things that have made them really successful over the last few years, but I'd never really grasped onto three or four songs where I'm like, okay, these are really special, these songs, and these are the ones that are going to stick in the set list. It did kind of feel like I don't want to say like just another Malevolence record because I really don't feel that way, but I don't think it's like the a step forward in any kind of stylistic or um any qualitative way where there's like three or four songs I'm thinking, okay, those are set list essentials in like 10 years' time. It feels like a good Malevolence album. But that's probably where I would end my analysis if I was looking at this overarching approach to it.
That's interesting. I kind of just considered this to be when I say the big like the set piece moments turned to 11. That's not me saying I think the album's an 11 out of 10 or that I think the album's perfect. What I mean is there's been a larger focus on the big set piece moments in the album. There's a huge one on Counterfeit. There's the best one on the album, in my opinion, on So Help Me God, which I think is the best song on the album. You've got a huge one on In Spite, the way that Randy Blythe is put as the focus. And I think you could also talk about Con's chorus melody on Heaven's Shake as another big set piece moment. So I think that you've got the standard tropes that you'd want from a Malevolence album that makes it great, as well as there are these they've kind of Frankensteined in these larger moments that I personally think will translate really well live. I think So Help Me God will be a real cool, really cool live track. There's not a guarantee it'll end up in the set list, but I'll be surprised if it doesn't. Because I think I mean, that literally has every single thing you can want from a Malevolent song, that is, as well as this really great, punchy chorus from Conan.
Fair enough. Fair enough. I think there are lots of great moments on this record. I don't get me wrong. I don't disagree with you there, and it was incredibly enjoyable to read it and review it and sort of be talking about it now. Um, I do think it's an inferior album to Malicious Intent, and I think that if I look over the track listing now of Malicious Intent, there aren't many songs on the current album I would say are as good as Higher Place, Do or Die, Karma, Life Sentence, or the title track. I think if I look through this current record that we are reviewing, I think Blood from the Leech, Trenches, and If It's All the Same to You are 7 to 8 out of 10 Malevolent songs. I think the album ratchets up the quality on Counterfeit, Salt the Wound, and So Help Me God. I think the second half of Imperfect Picture is great, but I don't particularly feel that it's um, like a standalone, standout song, and I feel the same way about Heaven Shake. I think In Spite is really good, and I
Yeah, it's
think
great.
Randy Blythe infects some energy into it. And I wonder that if he wasn't there, how I'd feel about the song as a whole. And I think the stabbing snare section on Demonstration of Pain is fantastic. And then I heard Dirt from My Grave, and it felt a little bit blueprinty at times with Malevolence on this record, where it kind of felt okay, slow riff, thrash riff, chorus, change of tempo, breakdown, repeat chorus, and it does feel like it follows that sort of template. And I kept waiting for a song to really sort of take me off guard in the same way that I've been used to. Not to the level where I'm crying out for specifically like a ballad song, like I remember us talking to about Higher Place on the last Malevolence record. I think I might have reviewed it with Jack actually, but me and you talking about it separately, where that was just such a special song and felt like um, not just a complete tone change for the band, but also an extension that they were moving into a different sort of ability range, like a completely different range of outcomes for what the band could be. I feel that I've taken a small step back to almost like a traditional Malevolence album, and I find myself thinking that this is a good, not great record for a really great band that again, I don't want this to feel like criticism, even though it sort of feels that way. And maybe it's. I was going to ask you, um, and I'll do it now actually. The fact that I feel slightly underwhelmed by this record, is it a function of my high expectations of the band?
Yeah, I
Or
was gonna ask you, like, if this was the second Malevolence album that you ever heard,
yeah,
do you feel like your thoughts maybe you may have felt differently about it?
yeah,
Um,
yeah, maybe if this is a second Malevolence record, and then I hear Malicious Intent and then Self Supremacy in that order, I'm thinking that
yeah.
this band are on like a completely different trajectory.
Hmm.
But I just I just
But
find
that is the
myself
nature of the
wanting,
beast, though, isn't it?
yeah, I just find myself wanting just a little bit more. I found myself like sort of pregnantly waiting, like a pregnant pause, just sort of waiting for this special moment that never really materialized. Like I said, I think there's some great songs on here. I just don't think we're talking about this record in the same kind of um sort of like superlative way that we've talked about the last two or three.
Do you
Like
think that
level with me, is this as good as Malicious Intent for you?
I would say so.
Okay, then fair enough.
So like because for me, malicious intent was great, and yes, higher place is a banger, and broken glass is a banger, and the title track is a banger. It's a great record, but for me personally, I feel like this swings punches with malicious intent because I think Heaven Shake, So Help Me God, Came to Fit, Blood to the Leech, in spite. I feel like I have recency bias massively. I do, so I'd be cautious to say, oh my god, yeah, I'll just switch those out for higher players, etc. Because that, I do suffer from recency bias, but I feel like they could comfortably compete. And if Broken Glass was to get dropped from the set list, which there's no way they'd drop Broken Glass from the set list because it always goes off so hard. If Broken Glass got dropped and So Help Me God got entered, I wouldn't be kind of belligerently throwing my hands up in the air.
No, no, I'm not sure I would either. And obviously you had the additional context of it being the new record, and that comes with certain expectations to setlist adjustments, like that sort of goes without saying. But um I would just be surprised maybe if in 3 albums' time we're hearing 4 tracks from this. It just doesn't feel like the next step that maybe I was hoping for, or the sort of qualitative jump. But like I said, let's talk about if we talk about the positives. I think there were some really, really, really good songs on here. Like Blood from the Leech is as classic a Malevolence opening song as you're likely to hear.
Yeah, man, that groovy technical riff at the start. Good lord.
It's just everything you want.
Yeah, man.
Alex Taylor, welcome back. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, man.
great. And he's probably the star of the show for me. Throughout this album, and usually I'd have selected one of the guitarists, but I don't feel that way this time. I think just the constant changes of tempo and the thrash to follow. Few bands do that, keeping the listener guessing on tempo and style as much as Malevolence do. They are borderline schizophrenic with their ability to flip from idea to idea. It is incredibly admirable and really rewarding for an attentive listener. I think Trenches, the vocals are just superb at the end of
Yeah,
Trenches. The toms to finish on that segment and the breakdown as it concludes is just fantastic. All the same to you, obviously one of the singles, we've all heard it. Like it's like that's another one for me where it's like this is just a good Malevolent song, sort of big tick,
yeah.
Slayer style riffs, bluesy opening, thrashy to follow, big chorus, big time, like sounds good. Counterfeit is one of the highlights for me. The ominous trucks
Banger.
under the open, groovy to follow. Love the verse riff, the way it changes up at there. Up tempo this time. I thought that was a good decision. I was kind of getting a little bit weary of the thrash riff into the halftime verse as like a trope. I started to notice that they did that a lot, and it kind of felt like it put a lot of the songs in the same kind of gear, and maybe that's contributed to my feeling about the album. And I felt that this up-tempo version on Counterfeit was really, really positive. Um, the breakdown at the end was just obviously classic Malevolence there. The acoustic open on Salt the Wound, I was like, okay, is this the ballad song? And it doesn't really get to that point, really. It sort of teeters into it, but never really fully commits to the idea of being like a sort of acoustic slow song because it kind of very quickly develops into this sludgy half time. But the middle eight of this and the central part of Salt the Wound is fantastic. With the accented riding cymbals on that chuggy segment is just fantastic. The chorus kind of grows on me as it kind of went along, and the follow up riff to sort of follow to sort of come after that is really really terrific, and that's where I start to feel the album's picked up. Um, and then So Help Me God, Discord riff thrash to follow, and I'm like, okay, we're starting every song in a similar manner now. That's where I start to think, all right, it does feel a little bit blueprint here. The chorus is good though, and the riff to follow is terrific, and I'm back in on the song by 2/3 of the way through. The solo with the countdown, sick.
So
That was
good.
a nice moment at the breakdown to finish once again. Is really really good. The imperfect picture, I'm like, this riff is like built for me. I love those kind of off kilter, dun, 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 like that kind of
Yeah.
stuff. Like that, I've always been into that type of thing. That really kicks in beautifully. Um, I don't think it's like gonna like be everyone else's favorite tune or it's gonna be on the set necessarily, but I just liked it as a bop. Um, Heaven Shake felt like an album track to me.
Yeah, yeah, that's one that it. I'm surprised that you said that because I felt like there was a really cool chorus melody from Con, but when you were talking about there were moments on the album that you felt passed you by, I thought, oh, we might mention Heaven Shake. It's interesting because I feel quite the opposite.
Interesting. And then obviously in Spite, it's like terrific, like an intense opening, good change of pace. The breakdown's great. The iconic Randy Blythe growl, with the he sort of displays all the shades of Randy. He does that creepy spoken voice thing, and then he does the
Yeah.
growling thing, and then he does that kind of wild scream he does that it's him immediately, and that's just terrific. I think the stabbing segment on Demonstration of Pain is fantastic, and the breakdown is called the end. But I feel that the other bits are just kind of waiting for that to happen almost. And then with Dirt from My Grave, I was kind of expecting better from a closing track in an album. To be honest, I thought the Pantera style with the diddler 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 diddler, it felt a little bit like it shouldn't be the central riff to this song. Like I don't think it's quite quality enough for it to center the whole song around it. And it just kind of felt like a thrash blast beats, bit of a bluesy solo, good not great. Like it kind of felt like a song that they've just sort of pulled together from like a collection of riffs that they had left over, perhaps. And rather than something that really feels the same kind of layered, technical a way that Malev have put songs through in the past. So again, maybe it's because they've set the bar so high over the last three records that I'm like, why isn't every song really special?
Yeah.
Like some of their last two of the last four albums have made me feel like every song is really special. And I just don't quite get there with this one. But that being said, this album, even on its own, without me like sort of waxing lyrical about it, is going to be one of the better metal releases this year, and there are a few bands that can sound like Malevolence with the consistency and ease that they do. I just find myself, selfishly or not, wanting just them to find that extra gear that they've so often found, and I don't think it's quite there here.
Yeah, man. I think that's a quite poignant. I think it's really fair. I would agree that there's nothing. I don't think there's anything on this album that is the greatest moment of their career, or that if you didn't like Malevolence a year and a half ago, wait till you hear this. I just feel like there has been a noticeable focus, in my opinion, on the huge set piece moments in the tracks where they are fitting. Something you mentioned there about your expectations possibly working against you. For any gamers out there, like they'll probably remember a time where like PlayStation Studios were just releasing banger after banger after banger, like Ghost of Tsushima, The Last of Us, God of War, like these 10 out of 10s, Bloodborne, another one. I'm not within the same time period, but still. And then when a game comes out that's like a PlayStation exclusive, it's only a 7 out of 10. People are like, what's gone wrong? Where's my
Yeah.
next 10 out of 10? And I think there's a possibility that would be the case for Malevolence because Malevolence were the band that everyone wanted to do well because they're the underground underdogs. And then they're also fantastic musicians who write great songs. So I think that anyone who listens to this album and possibly feels a slight level of disappointment, there's a possibility that's the high expectation that Malevolence have set for themselves working against them. A few things from me, although I'll be honest, I do agree with a fair few points that you made on it on each track. Blood to the Leech is that classic Malev tonality and punch. It's that groovy technical riff that morphs into the patented Pantera-like stomp, which I love. There's a looping lead riff that returns for each verse, which is sick. And you mentioned Alex being the MVP of the record, which I would agree with. His vocal tenacity just runs at 100 mile per hour throughout the entire album, and his delivery of his some lines is still so potent. There's a great bit on Blood to the Leech where he's like, the only thing that's left to do is sever the ties between me and you. So sick. Counterfeit. The countdown to the solo is incredible. This is the first time where I like really noticed on the record after it's all the same to you that I felt like Malev were trying to work in these big set piece moments. There's a slow build to the breakdown, which is sick. I absolutely love. So help me God, I think is a shining star on the record. The guitar work on it's exceptional, especially in the bridge out of the verse into the chorus. I think the chorus itself is the best on the album. There's a real fascinating blend between Venom and Purity from Conan, which kind of reminds me how I felt when I first heard Broken Glass from Malicious Intent. There's a beautiful solo that leads out of the middle eight as well. I think that shows that track, sorry, shows off everything that Malev do better than pretty much everyone else, especially in terms of British metal. And the spit out at the end too is like a really nice sick moment. And then Heaven Shake, like what I know you felt ambivalent towards it, but for me, one of the great Malevolence groove riffs opens Heaven Shake, and there isn't really anyone else in metal that has like this unique chorus melody as Conan, where he kind of strikes that balance between extended doom vocal and that classic metal pitch. He's got this line, "The heavens will shake, no soul will be saved." There's a massive breakdown on it, and there's the extended expendable martyr growls from Alex as well, which is unbelievably sick. And in spite, man, what else is there to add? It's a Malevolent song that features Randy Blythe doing the thing that Randy Blythe's really sick at. That I think that's going to be another staple in the set list for Malevolence out of this record. If you were to say, Sam, four tracks from this album that make their way into Malevolence's set list, In Spite, So
Yep,
Help Me God, All the
yep.
Same to You, and Trenches
Counterfeit.
or I'd imagine I'd like it to be Heaven Shake, but since you'd expect the singles to be in the set list, I'm gonna say if it's all Trenches.
Fair enough. I'd love to see counterfeit in there.
Yeah,
And salt the wound. But yeah, I would agree with you if it's all the same to you. Um, in spite, and then it's just going to lend itself nicely if they're playing festivals where Lamb of God are Blood
yeah.
from the Leech, and like you say, Trenches because of the single factor. Makes all the sense in the world. Like I said, it's a really good album. It's like it's at least an 8 out of 10. They're probably Malevolence right 8 out of 10 riffs just getting out of bed. I feel
Yeah.
like. And this is another the example that they are one of the more uniquely talented bands, really that we have in this industry and in this genre. Um, so it's another good record. So I don't want to take anything away from that.
I think that's a good place for us to leave off, to be honest, Sam.
Hmm.
Malevolence. Absolute banger of a band. We love them. They've carried us through a lot of our adulthood. Where Only the Truth is Spoken, out on June 20th via Century Media Records. We're going to leave it there for this episode. Remember, the best way to support us by subscribing on YouTube. You can follow the General Noise platform on Instagram at Noise UK, on X at Noise UK, and on Blue Sky at Noise UK. We should be back in approximately 2 weeks' time, either covering Born of Osiris or Obituary. That's something that myself and Sam need to discuss and see what's coming out and which albums we can get hold of. But for the time being, we're on The Truth Is Spoken by Malevolence. Listen to it, take it all in. What a band. Thank you for listening. We're going to be back in 2 weeks' time. We love you. Bye.